And then I'm just in the process of starting up the VRCORE education platform. And the easiest way to explain it is just gymnasium scale education content. And so we would be a in-school field trip where we take our equipment to the school and we provide a 1 hour or 2 hour field trip for every single class in the school. And so right from grade 3 to grade 12, all of those classes would come through the gymnasium and experience our gymnasium scale multi-learner educational platform. Where that one is at right now, the program that we're looking to build is a space program. And so we would turn the gymnasium into the solar system and then a planetarium. And then the last scene would be a giant globe in the middle of the gymnasium where kids can study weather patterns and biomes, and they can see population movement, different things like that. So it's not just science that we're trying to hit. We're trying to hit, obviously phys ed, science, social studies, history is a really interesting thing to learn in VR. Anyway, so in order to do that experience from grade 3 to grade 12, well, we need an hour of content for each grade. So that's 10 hours of content that we need to not only have the virtual reality assets for, but we have to have the curriculum assets for, so that the teacher knows what they're drawing attention to. Because for grade 3, you're drawing attention to completely different assets and concepts than you are for grade 7. And again, for grade 11. For grade 11, you're looking at a lot more physics-based things. For grade 7, you're looking a lot more at biomes and weather patterns and things like that. And for grade 3, you're looking at a lot simpler concepts. And so we need all of those assets built into the experience that we have. And so we need 10 hours of content from an asset perspective, but also from a curriculum perspective. And where we're at now is we're building the first hour of content. So really it would be a grade 7 offering. And with that platform, we would be able to go to schools, show them, the 1 hour we have compared to the 10 hour that we would eventually want to sell them, and sell them on the idea. So we would get pre-orders from schools. And then once we've got the pre-orders from schools, then we can go to investors and raise the couple $100,000 that we need in order to build the full 10 hour experience, hit the ground running with that, and hopefully see cash flow within the next year.
You guys are already pioneers in the VR arcade industry, and your educational camps are great, but this really takes it to a new level.
Yeah.
So what age group is this focused towards?
7th grader is what we're building for our first slice. But of course, we want to build it for all 10 grades.
That's awesome, because you don't have to actually bring the kids to the arcade. You can actually just go to the schools. Do you sell this as a field trip?
Yeah, it's an in-school field trip. And there's a lot of advantages to bringing virtual reality to schools this way. Number one, the field trip is in their school, so they don't have to worry about waivers for the kids. They don't have to worry about busing. Busing is oftentimes $10 or $12 per kid just to get them from the school to the zoo or to the science center or the museum or wherever they want to go. So we're saving them on that. But really the largest advantage is that teachers don't need to understand the virtual reality technology. So the way the business is being offered right now is companies are trying to get schools to buy headsets. And they say, okay, now that you have the headset, you can put our software onto your headset, like a pig dissection or a frog dissection or a molecule builder or whatever it is. The school would, number one, buy the headset. So they have to understand the hardware enough to keep them maintained. And then they have to buy the software. And the schools are expected to put those two together, which some schools are willing to do. But you've got a large investment with the hardware and now with the software. And you've got a 20 to 30 minute experience for all of your grade 7 kids, and that's it. So you buy the pig dissection, you've just spent $40,000 on headsets, you've spent some money on the software, whether it's a lifetime license or by the minute, and you now have one experience for one grade. And if you want another experience for more grades, well, you've got to go find more software, figure out how to put that onto your headset. If it's from a different company, then it's going to be a different process. And so you would need, if you want to buy 40 headsets, put them in a school and have them be used at least once a week, you would need at least one part-time employee to run that whole program. And schools are just generally not interested in hiring an extra person just to run their virtual reality headsets. And so the advantage with what we have is we take care of the technology. We bring the technology in and we take it right back out. And we're charging somewhere, depends how big the school is, but we're looking at about $30 per student. And so it'll end up being somewhere between $3,000 and $10,000 for your entire school to do a field trip. It's going to be world class, the best that's out there. You pay it once. We give you a kick-ass educational experience, and it's perfectly curated to your local area's educational objectives. So I'm here in Alberta, Canada. And so for grade 7, we step in and we are building our curriculum to match what the grade 7 curriculum needs. And that would be social studies, science, phys ed, maybe some English. So we're looking at all of these subjects and we are baking it into our curriculum. Then if we go to Ohio, where you're at, well, then we study the educational objectives for the grades where you're at, and the grade 7s may get a completely different experience. And the reason we're doing that is because we want teachers to push having us. And once they've had us, their entire class go through, then for the rest of their semester or the rest of their year, they're able to reference back what the kids learned in the educational experience that we provided them. So they could say, do you remember how the planetary pole affected the meteors that you were shooting at each other when VRCORE Education came and did a field trip with us? And immediately the kids, they were there, they did it, they saw it, they felt it, they shot their friend, and that meteor went around a couple of planets before hitting their friend, and they're like, oh, that's meteor dodgeball, but it teaches them something that they're able to reference for the rest of the year.
You know, you see things that come along every so often, and this is something that's truly innovative. And it's not very often that I say that, because this is something that can literally change how education is done in schools. The schools don't hire anyone. They don't have to learn how to use the equipment, and they don't have to pay for busing, right?
Yeah.
So this is not only exciting, but it's relatively low cost for the schools. What kind of timeline are you thinking?
So I should have my first slice done, the first hour of content done in about 2 months. And at that point, then I start going to schools. I bring them into my arcade. I could probably get groups of principals and groups of teachers, 30 and 50 at a time. They come in, we do a wine and cheese night. And in my arena that I'm currently sitting in, we would provide them the educational or the slice of the educational experience that we bring to their school, and then garnish interest and tell them, hey, if you want to book us for next year, we're already starting to book up for next year.
So if I'm a VR arcade owner, is this something that I can license from you?
Yeah, so we're looking at that from a couple of different avenues. The first one would be through just general franchising. And what our anticipation is that we would do a really low franchise fee and then a higher royalty. And the reason we want to do that is we want to be able to allow people to get into this quickly. So if yourself, if you wanted to buy a franchise of this, you would pay, the $5,000 or $10,000 franchise fee, and then you pay the $60,000 or $80,000 for the equipment that you need, and that would be really most of the equipment is 35 Vive Focus 3s, and so you buy all of the Vive Focus 3s that you need. If you have an arcade with a whole bunch of those already, well, then you've already got the majority of your hardware budget taken care of. And then we just charge for the software. So it would just be a royalty and software put together. And so it's a really cool business in the sense that if you want to shut it down for a month, you can. There are no expenses. You put all of that equipment into your closet in your house and you go on vacation for a month. You don't have rent and employees and all of these static costs. You might have to pay for your more expensive cell phone bill to get internet connectivity. Overall, it's a really low overhead. And with the amount of return on investment, we're hoping that whoever buys a franchise for this would be able to get a full return on investment within the first year. And the second avenue that we're looking at this is we want to hire a salesman that goes to a city. So let's say Cincinnati, Ohio. So he would come to Cincinnati and he would tour all of the private schools first in your area. You would have 4 headsets with him. You'd set meetings with all of the principals and teachers and pre-sell approximately 4 months worth of bookings. And that 4 months worth of bookings, if you were to not pay yourself, should pay for the entire startup cost. So that would be the $10,000 franchise fee and the $80,000 hardware that you need. And we would sell that as a package. So we would first pre-sell Cincinnati 4 months worth of sales. Then we would find a franchisee that would be able to deliver this product and sell it to them as, here's your package. This is essentially going to cost you nothing. And after that, yeah, you're making 6 figures a year, relatively easy. And then if you wanted to do multiple of them and create a business around it where you have a central location where everybody kind of starts from, then I mean, your initial investment is less than $100,000 per team. And if you have 4 or 5 teams going, well, you're easily making 7 figures a year.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying that VRCORE will actually do the sales for the franchise owner?
That's our anticipation. Obviously, we haven't pulled that off yet. But I mean, I've got the salesman that wants to do the traveling. And obviously, we would need to take a portion of those sales just to pay for the traveling salesman and to make it worth our time. But then it becomes an almost zero risk endeavor. And so I anticipate scaling this significantly faster than the VRCave model. Part of our vision is in the next 8 to 10 years to have 5% of North American students doing at least one of our modules. And when I say module, our first module is space. Our next module will likely be something around atoms and molecules. And I'd like for our third module to be something around history, because I would love it if for our high school students, we could have Normandy Beach, and we've got the Allies storming Normandy Beach in every school gymnasium. Well, every kid is going to have a solid understanding of, number one, the horrificness of war, and number two, the sacrifice that our ancestors made in order for us to have the freedoms that we have.
So you're looking at September or October being able to start demoing this in actual schools?
Yeah. So the next 2 months, we should have that built. Our developers were about halfway done. And the thing with our first initial slice is it's only an hour of content, but it'll probably be 50% of what we need for the whole project, because we already have our networking down. We already have our gymnasium scale stuff down. We already have our multi-learner, everything down. And so to go from 1 hour to 9 hours, it's not a ton more work. We just need to create more assets and get more curriculum with our teachers. And so the business model, when we go to a school, what we send to the school would be between 30 and 40 headsets. There would be a server, because we need this all to run local. If you have spotty internet, we can't have an $8,000 sale go down the drain because we have spotty internet. So we've got a locally hosted server or laptop that you would bring with you, and obviously an extremely robust network in order to keep them all together. And so everything that you're bringing into the school, you could fit into duffel bags. So you bring that into the school, obviously with all of your marketing material, all of your banners and stuff like that. And it would be one teacher and one tech that goes into the school. So the teacher is the one that has memorized the 10 hours of content that needs to be provided to the students, or at least as close to memorized as possible. So for grade 4s, they know, okay, we start with this step, that takes 15 minutes. Then we go into this game that takes 5 minutes. And then we go into this step that takes 18 minutes. So the teacher is the one that's guiding the students through this experience specific to the grade that they have. That way we don't have to build a separate build for each one of the grades. It's just the teacher spends more time in the solar system for grade 11s, and for grade 7s, they spend more time around the massive globe, because they're studying the weather patterns, biomes, etc. And then we obviously have a tech on site because you've run an arcade, I've run an arcade. There's always technical issues that happen. There's an audio issue, or somebody got disconnected, or there's a miscalibration or something like that. And so the tech is there to be responsible for obviously running the server side of the experience, as well as help any issues that arise. And so it's a team of 2 people. So our perfect franchisee would be a couple that just came out of college or university, and one of them is a teacher and the other is an IT specialist. The 2 of them, this is their business that they start off with. We get pre-approved with all of the national banks. You can get a loan out super easy with this. So as long as you've got a solid credit score, you can start this business.
Man, you're getting me excited. Where do I sign up?
Where's your teacher?
So is this specifically for teachers, or can anyone sign up to franchise this?
It entirely depends on how the franchisee wants to set up their business. Because at the end of the day, it is their business. So if the franchisee is the teacher and the IT specialist, great. Then they're the ones that buy the franchise from us and obviously pay the software licensing and royalties. If you're the investor and you want to have 6 teams of 1 teacher and 1 IT specialist, then obviously you would be able to do the same thing. So you buy the franchise, and then you have the 6 teams that are able to do 6 different schools at a time.
If someone wanted to learn more, where would they go?
Yeah, I mean, you could email myself for now. In the next, as part of the slice, we're getting our website set up. We're getting all of these details put in place. So all of the sales funnels and so on put into place.
Well, this is exciting, and this is something that if you already own a VR arcade, then it has huge potential as a revenue stream. But if you're looking to get in the industry, it's something that I could see a lot of people doing as well. So this is awesome.
Yeah, just talking about a virtual reality arcade, purchasing a system like this, it's extremely advantageous, because if we go into a school and we provide a killer experience to 2,000 kids, we could put your arcade's logo on the banners. For VR Atlanta, they put their logo on the banners, and they have 2,000 kids that go through their experience. They give each one of those kids a t-shirt with their logo on it and powered by VRCORE education. Now they've got 2,000 billboards running around the city that are all like, hey, I want to do a birthday party at this place.
That's the best kind of marketing.
And so the symbiotic relationship there is really powerful. And then on the flip side, I mean, at our locations, we've had groups of principals come in where you've got 30 or 40 principals that come in to play games as a final hurrah at the end of the year. Well, they would be the perfect people to present, hey, we can do this in your school, and hopefully secure some sales that way.
This is 10 times better than a normal mobile event.
It's mobile events that you can actually make some money with.
Yeah, so for existing VR arcades, we always tell them not to invest in anything unless it has the possibility to actually be the largest revenue stream that could pay for the whole business. But this is a potential 7-figure stream.
Mm-hmm. 7-figure business on its own that supports your current business. And it's possible that you already have the hardware to run this side business. And so your initial startup cost is $20,000 or $30,000. And if we can, or even if you can pre-sell your city before buying the franchise, just go to some schools and say, hey, this is what we've got. Do you want to buy it? You could pre-sell $30,000 worth of this just like that. And so it doesn't end up costing you anything.
That sounds like a no-brainer. Now I want it to be done.
Yeah, same. We've talked to 80% of the private schools here in Calgary, and every single one of them have said, take my money. They've said, when can we book you? We've never had one that was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Why don't you give us a call when you have it ready? No, they are all on the edge of their seat, ready to go. And so obviously we start with private schools because they're the ones that are competing with each other in order to provide the best experience. So if you can go to, one really solid private school and they're motivated to have you in because the educational value is there. And then once you've landed that person, then you tell all of the other private schools, well, Tweedsmuir is doing this field trip. Are you going to be left behind? And then the rest of them gobble it up. once all of the private schools have done it, then you get approved in the public school districts. And so the public schools do take a little bit longer. But then once you've got the public school districts approved, then you can hit up any of them and be their field trip offering. And so obviously module 1 would be space. And so maybe this year you just hit all of the schools and do the space experience. And maybe next year your students want to do space and molecules. And so you've just doubled your potential market by adding more experiences.
This literally takes away all the pain points I've heard from schools. Any other thoughts on how VR arcades could use something like this?
Yeah, the next thing that it really opens up for them is if that arcade has a free roam arena, well, then they can take the same concept and now they're having fun with a birthday party in the arena. And my vision for the next step of this is if we buy out shopping malls and we have shopping mall scale arena, we've got several hundred players that are all playing together. And if you've already got the name of being the free roam guy in your city, well, then of course you're the first person that everybody's going to think of when there's a new shopping mall scale arena that goes up.
Well, the possibilities seem limitless, and I wish that it existed when I had my arcades. So,
well, you can always jump in, have some fun with us.
I might, man. Seriously, this is the kind of thing that makes me start looking for investors.
If you're interested in VRCORE's educational programs, check the links below.